Welcome to Tea Time with Talent Acquisition, the podcast aimed at fostering knowledge and sharing stories within the vibrant talent acquisition community. Like always, I'm your host, Eden, and this one is a little bit of a special episode. It's a bonus, shall we call it. It's the end of the year, end of 2025. And if anyone has been listening since the beginning of this year, you would have recognized that I have asked every single guest that has joined our podcast this year the exact same question, with the intent of bringing those answers back to you towards the end of the year. And here we are. So without further ado, I want to share with you the 10 steps to turn your talent team into what our guests perceive to be the most optimal, high-performing recruitment team. So we can all go into 2026 with a very clear idea of whether or not you're an IC or whether or not you're a talent leader, how we can foster, how we can create high-performing recruitment teams for the organizations that we support. They're in no particular order. Hopefully, by the end of it, you've got 10 reasons to start exploring into your team. So number one is build a diverse team, different perspectives, different themes, different actions. What we want to do is include people with different skill sets and ideas, ways of thinking to improve the problem solving and the innovation that our talent teams are trying to focus on. And this was shared by a number of different guests over the last year. One particular is Baron Reed from the team at the BBC back in season 6, where he shared that you need diversity of thought for high performance to give you the right feedback. Bringing in as much of that diversity of thought represents a wider audience. And absolutely, I think that's echoed by pretty much everyone that we've spoken to. We cannot be creating high-performing recruitment teams if we all think and act the same. It needs to be a diversity of thought, diversity of ideas that we can bring forward into a melting pot so that we can ultimately support the wider business. So if you take a look at your team today and think, okay, maybe we're all from the same sort of companies, maybe the same sort of universities, maybe we have the same sort of interests, then 2026 might be a good time for us to start exploring and see, okay, how can we bring new talent into our team that's going to help us create that diversity of thought. Number two is define a clear vision, mission, and purpose for your team. And what we mean by that is that your team understands why we exist, right? Yes, ultimately we're here to bring talent into the wider function. Fine. But let's understand what the goals are that we're working towards to make that happen. How is the talent team contributing specifically to the business strategy? And Edward Sigond, again, in one of the earlier seasons of this year, he mentioned that you need to set the foundation right with that vision and mission. You need to make sure that the talent team and the function in general fits in that strategy, but that's driven back down to the individuals. So when you make that hire, or when they had that urgent position, they understand and they recognize why that exists in the first place. It's not just constantly just trying to fill jobs or put bums on seats, as it were, but there's a bigger why, there's a bigger purpose, and they're part of that. Get them part and bought into that bigger strategy, then you're going to get people who are motivated more in their day-to-day jobs, and ultimately that leads to higher success for everybody. Number three, and this kind of leads on from that, is hire people who are genuinely passionate about that role, right? So I know it seems pretty obvious, but again, if you take a look into your talent team, is everyone really driven? Is everyone really committed? Do they love what they're doing? It doesn't mean that you need to cut them open and they bleed the colours of the company. They should bleed recruitment, right? It's woven into their natural DNA. And look, you're going to get some people who are, extrovertly open to say, hey, I love recruitment. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And maybe some people not like that, but they still love recruitment. It's not what we're saying. But if you really take a look into your team, are they really passionate? And that's something that Filia Lorman mentioned. Is it really something that they would run to the end of the world for, right? You need to have that passion. You need to have the passion for what you're doing, not necessarily the organization or the industry. We get that things change. They really need to care for candidates, care for hiring managers, care for their processes. To really have to sit down and think, okay, do I have that team structure in place? If not, why not? And if so, how do we capture more of that? Number four is we need to develop talent acquisition literacy. And this one is shared by Andrea Lundescu. And she mentioned that people know that sourcing is connected to onboarding, which affects the retention rate, which affects the employer branding, and that TA should really be part of the wider picture of what the business is doing. Not just, okay, we need to hire these people, go and find these people, but they should know what product demos of your system look like. They should know how sales calls are handled in your business. They should understand how customer meetings go, how to read dashboards, how to look at roadmaps. They are the eyes and ears from your product directly to the market, and they can only sell their company or the company better, sorry, if they really understand the inner workings of the company. If they do not understand what your product's doing, they cannot comfortably pitch that product as if they were on a sales call. How do you expect them to get someone excited? And that's the key element of being, literally focused on understanding how talent acquisition really can better serve the business is by getting the business to understand how talent acquisition can be better involved in that understanding. Number 5 is you empower autonomy and ownership. And I love this one because I think we're far beyond now just, micromanagement. But you need to create solution first environments where your team members genuinely feel safe to make a mistake, to learn, to take ownership of their work. And Rebecca Collis mentioned this very brilliantly. She mentioned create a team that's inspired and comfortable in their own space. Think about that really. They're inspired and they're comfortable in their own space, which then makes people more comfortable to make those mistakes, but they can progress from those mistakes. Right? It's not just about saying, hey, you've made a mistake, let's move on, but it's how do we learn from this? But they're not afraid to voice it and go, okay, we fucked up here. How are we gonna improve it? And that's such a fundamental part to any high performing team. I absolutely loved it, Rebecca, and quite a few other guests. Joanna Seiden as well mentioned, drive ownership, move away from hierarchical thinking, focus on, reveal what the value of the team truly brings. And ownership and an autonomy really came up a number of times when speaking to our guests. And I love that because, like I said, it's such a fundamental part to any high performing team. And it really needs to be woven into the talent acquisition function in every function. Number 6 is build agility and adaptability, right? So recruit for the core skills, what a talent acquisition person is doing, like problem solving, resilience, communication. This allows your team to pivot. It allows your team to adapt quickly to market changes. And let's be honest, we've had a lot of market changes over the last few years. But what we need to do is really think, okay, are we going to be hiring for a specific niche role? Or do we need to hire for someone who's a little bit more generalist, who can build that adaptability? Now, there's no right or wrong, and it depends on your company for sure, right? Some businesses absolutely love the generalist. It works perfectly for them, and other businesses really do need that specialist. But when we're taking a look at what makes a high-performing team, is that core understanding of problem solving, resilience, communication, adaptability. That needs to be what you screen against in your team. Whenever you make a hire, that needs to be the core elements you're screening against. Not have they hired in JavaScript or go to market. That stuff can all be taught. Unless you specifically need someone with a little black book of candidates that they can bring with them, which, to be honest, we've all got access to LinkedIn and job boards, and those little black books don't really exist as much anymore. So if you're hitting the fundamentals of what a talent acquisition specialist should do, and you're constantly checking against that, that's how you start really building that into your team to make that super high performing team. Number 7 is we promote collaboration and teamwork. And again, we encourage each other to support each other. It fosters strong connections with the team. Get rid of the environment where you're pitting each other against each other for kind of sales leads or incentives or whatever, right? And I don't see it as much anymore with internal teams, but it still exists, right? A team made of team players helps each other cover for one another, support one another. Everyone can really have this focus. And Francois Picard shared that. It's that if someone goes on holiday, someone else can easily pick it up. You don't have that fear that you're coming back into 10 unresolved problems, or hiring managers chasing you from the first 5 seconds you log onto Slack. It's about really communicating and creating that environment where everyone is there banded together. And it does exist, but it doesn't exist as much as I think we would like it to. So again, going into 2026, it's really a fundamental now. Is your team really acting like a team, or are they acting more like siloed recruiters under the same company? Number 8 is we balance the soft skills with the hard skills. And it kind of links back into what we were saying a moment ago with number 6, which is build agility and adaptability. But, soft skills, hard skills, So the idea behind this is that we ensure that our team can handle both the human interaction, right, which is ultimately what we're going to say is the soft skills, but they also understand, data-driven decision making. They understand the actual niches of recruitment, and that's more like the hard skills in our role, right? So high-performing teams need to have that real good balance of what soft skills and really good hard skills, and they need to understand how to appeal to someone's heart, how to appeal to the emotional side, and to be, empathetic. But they also need to understand when to use data and when to understand when you push and pull certain levers to understand how to maneuver through either a process or get what you need to from a hiring manager or from a board member, whatever, right? And the idea behind that is if we have an entire team that really understands, okay, I'm dealing with humans, but I can actually also think logically and I can understand the data to help create decisions. That is an unstoppable force if you have an entire team that's doing that, right? Usually you get one or two that are absolutely data driven. They love it. And then, you might get everyone else who's a little bit more on the empathetic side. So you've got really finding that blend, and you're never going to get everyone who loves both sides, right? So, don't worry about that, but it's about making sure that you're giving it a conscious effort as a leader or as an IC to really push yourselves into this direction. Say, I don't know as much about the data side, I'm going to learn. Or actually, maybe I might come across as a little bit cold sometimes. I'm going to push myself more towards the empathetic side and really in develop myself here. Because that's all this whole conversation is, right? It's just a way to showcase what people think. It kind of creates these high performing teams, and for you to sit back and go, where are potential gaps? Number 9 is keep the human element and candidate experience central. And again, leaning on to that empathetic side, right? We are dealing with humans, right? Humans change their mind all the time. We know that, right? We all get emotional. We all get driven by things that are, related to us. But we're dealing with humans, and we really need to reflect that. And we should be seen as connectors. Hence why I call myself professional people connector for the last, 12 years. I don't see myself necessarily as a recruiter. I see myself as a connector. I'm an ambassador. I'm an advisor, right? I want to create a positive candidate experience. I want candidates to sit back and go, holy shit, I didn't get the job. I loved working with him. Or when I'm representing the company, I didn't find the hire for us, but we'll absolutely use you again because of this, this, and this. And that's my drive. That's my driver, right? I want to get as many people jobs. Of course, don't get me wrong. That is what I'm employed to do. But I don't lose sight of I'm dealing with humans. And it is ultimately that sense of as long as they take the right decision for them, I need to be happy for them. Right. And Dominic Joyce shared this fantastically as well. So recruiters are the bridge between the outside world and the inside. They champion the brand and they create boomerang candidates. Now, a boomerang candidate ultimately is somebody who maybe applied, wasn't right, but they will come back to you. And I saw this comment actually, it was on LinkedIn literally like 2 days ago. And it was an engineering manager, and he's been hit by the market a few times. And he was kind of voicing the question of why do recruiters say keep in touch, like follow us and keep in touch. And I was trying to explain it to him that, recruiters are also just human. They're just doing their job, and it's a genuine request for them to say, hey, I might not have something for you right now, but please follow us. It's a genuine reason to say, look, I cannot remember you all the time, and I would love to. We don't always have ATS systems set up properly, but please follow us. I would love to speak again in the future when there's a better opportunity that's matching. And that's a boomerang can if they genuinely follow that process, but they're only going to follow that process if they feel heard, if you gave them feedback, if you was genuine throughout the conversation. And that's absolute crystal clear. Recruitment going into 2026, the candidate experience is going to be the definer for who is successful and who's not. And I know we spoke about this a number of times throughout the entire podcast, this year and last year. But it's ultimately one of those elements. If you, as a company, mess up your candidate experience, it's so hard to come back from because people talk all the time. And us as recruiters, we need to have a firm stop and say, it's not good enough. Let's improve. Absolutely. It's the only thing that we're going to take away from this entire conversation today is candidate experience needs to be nailed on next year. The last point, just to wrap up, AI. Oh, God, I know you lot are bored of me talking about this. Embrace the technology. Please embrace it, but do not lose core skills when doing so. Leverage AI, leverage automation, but don't let it replace human judgment. Don't let it replace candidate interactions. Don't let it replace old school recruitment tactics that made this job successful, right? You haven't heard from your candidate for a week. Go call them, all right? They've got an interview today. Drop them a little text and say good luck. It's their birthday. Just send them a message. All this information can be gained from having good, deep, valuable connections and conversations. AI is great. Don't get me wrong. I use it all the time, but it's not going to replace what I do as a human, right? And please don't let it replace you. All these companies trying to create these fantastically automated systems, it's coming across the wrong way to candidates. They can see through the bullshit. They can see through the templates. Don't be the company that's called out on LinkedIn because you created a template and didn't adjust it, right? Now, I'm not saying don't use it. Like I said, leverage it. Absolutely leverage it. And there's so many brilliant ways. Please ping me a message if you're not sure how to. I've got loads of examples to share with you. Or go to our website, download our guide for talent acquisition and AI. But don't let it replace what our job is, which is human-to-human interaction, right? That is absolutely key. I mean, all these are key. I feel like I said key multiple times. But that's it, right? That's the wrap up of this year. We loved it. It's been fantastic. 26 guests, 26 fantastic guests, and going into next year already, we've got 18 signed up. It's going to be a crazy year. I'm buzzing for it. But thank you genuinely so much for everyone, like, truly, who have downloaded it, who have followed us, who gave us a review, who shared it to their networks. So all our guests, without you, Tea Time would not be a thing. And I'm truly thankful. I never imagined 2 years ago that one, I'd still be doing it. I think there'll be a little fad that people would be bored of me by this point. But I've loved every second of it, and genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I really do hope that these top 10 tips will help you and your team go into 2026 either with an absolute hell yeah, we're nailing all of that, let's go for it, or areas of improvement. Either way, whatever side of the fence you sit on, my inbox is always open if you ever need to have a chat. If you ever want support, you know where I am. But until January, I think mid-January, we're launching this next season. Enjoy your holidays, whatever you end up getting up to. Spend it with loved ones. Make sure you take some time to yourself. And if you are in between that weird period where you're not really sure if it's Christmas or New Year's and you're bored, then we've got 60 other episodes to listen to. So thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day.